this is a 2-week postpartum update. Reagan is actually 17 days today, so that's just a little bit over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I meant to do it a couple days ago, but you know how it goes. Especially with 2 now, it's a lot of work to have some time to myself, you know, and even then. So yeah, let me just show her real quick before I get into it. Yes, nice and awake. She's about probably to cry pretty soon, I'm sure. Yes. Yeah, there's your sad face. Oh, I know. Her 2-week appointment for Reagan went well. She is 10 pounds, 10 ounces. So she gained a whole pound, almost a whole pound from when she was born. She was 9 pounds, 12 ounces when she was born. Now she's 10, 10. So she's a big girl. She gained a whole pound almost. And yeah, it's pretty funny that she's like 2 pounds heavier than Pierce when he was born. So that's a lot. She has a little bit of jaundice, but nothing to be concerned about. It's just a little bit. So she looks a lot tanner than she should be. Pierce did the same thing. He was probably more jaundiced than her. Pierce is doing good. He just doesn't know how to be gentle with the baby yet. He's working on it. She feeds now between 2 and 3 hours apart, and it's fine. At nights, I've had a couple nights where I felt really defeated because she wouldn't sleep for like 3-4 hours in a row. I'd feed her and put her down, and she would wake up, so I'd put her back on my boob. So it was basically like going back and forth on each boob to put her back to sleep, which it was driving me crazy. I had a few moments where I was just like going on my mind and crying and all that stuff. But now it's steadily getting better. In fact, she sometimes doesn't eat for 4 hours, and I'm like, oh, I gotta wake you up and feed you, you know. So it's getting better. I wanted to use this video as an opportunity to talk about breastfeeding. I wanted to talk about Pierce compared to Reagan. Pierce, because he was my first and I didn't have any experience. I didn't even take a breastfeeding class. The only information I got was at the hospital when they tried to help me, and even then he had a poor latch. He would not latch. He would basically open his mouth and shake his head and never clamp down, which was really hard on me, because even when he did finally clamp down, he wouldn't, the baby's mouth is supposed to go all the way around the areola, not the nipple, because that's really painful and it'll tear you up. I'm going to try breastfeeding her. Okay, so she's breastfeeding right now. Okay, so breastfeeding is supposed to be painful. The baby's supposed to have a nice wide open mouth around the areola, not the nipple, because that will hurt like hell. Pierce, because he had a bad latch because he had tongue-tied problem. His that little flap of skin under your tongue was a little too long, so he couldn't properly open his mouth. It made it hard for him to do that. So I had a tough time. For 2 weeks I was delusional. I had no sleep. It was god-awful. And the whole time I was breastfeeding him, up until 8 months is when I stopped breastfeeding him. It was a challenge to keep up with supply. I went back to school for my last semester. That was a challenge that diminished my supply because 2 days a week I went to school. And you know, I didn't pump for like 6 hours, and then there's one day a week where I didn't pump or breastfeed for like 8 hours, and that really ruined my supply, really. And there's moments when I kept up with him and moments when I didn't. I supplemented with formula, so it wasn't exclusive breastfeeding. Okay, so that's the story with Pierce. It was a challenge. Yeah. And I also forgot to mention, because Pierce had poor palms latching on in the beginning, I had the worst cracked, bleeding, scabbed over nipples in the world. Sorry, that's like horrible to listen to. I'm sure all the women who breastfed are like, ow, I know what you're talking about. But it was horrible, horrible. I used the nipple shield in the hospital, and when I got home, I also had to pump to take a break. It was really, really hard. Really hard. It was horrible. Okay, so now Reagan's story. In the hospital, she latched on immediately when they rolled me out of the operating room and gave her to me. She latched on, and you know, she had to learn, lots to learn. So did I, again. Yeah. So she latched on and she breastfed wonderful. She's like the perfect breastfeeding baby. The only problem I ran into, was again painful nipples, but they were nowhere near where Pierce, where I was with Pierce breastfeeding. Yeah, they got scabbed over and all that stuff, but I didn't like bleed into her mouth as far as I know. I was like, with Pierce I was like, oh, I have a vampire for a baby because he's like totally drinking my blood from the cracked, disgusting nipples I have. So that's the only problem I ran in with Reagan was just some pain. It was really painful. I took ibuprofen, that I was prescribed for my C-section. I took that for like a week, so that actually helped with the pain a lot. I think it was 600 milligrams. I took one every 6 hours, and that actually helped. I was able to get through it and not cry, because there was a few instances where it was so painful that I did cry. Not to scare anyone who wants to breastfeed, it's just something you have to get over. Some women don't have any pain at all, but most of us do, and you have to just stick through it. And believe it or not, and when I heard this for the first time, I was like, screw you, you gotta be kidding me. The best thing, the best cure to get over horrible painful nipples is to just keep breastfeeding as often as you can. It sounds terrible because you're like, you want the baby nowhere near you when you're in that much pain. Best solution is to just keep breastfeeding, keep applying your nipple cream, and take some ibuprofen to lessen the pain. So that's the best advice I can give you, and just stick through it. It's so challenging, it is in the beginning, but after a couple of weeks, you won't even feel it anymore. It's amazing how pain goes away completely and you don't feel anything. So you just have to stick through it. It's hard, I know, but you do. Because Reagan's such a good breastfeeder, breastfeeding in public, not that difficult. She's very good, so it's not that challenging. Pierce, it was so horrible. I just did not breastfeed in public. Because he had a horrible latch, he would sit there and fidget and never ever latch on. He would cry. I would get frustrated and just say, screw it, I'm going to pump and bring milk with me. I can't deal with it. It was very frustrating as a mother not to be able to just do it. Now that I have experience behind me, I'm able to do it in public. So, of course, yes. Green, blue, red, green, blue, right? Pierce, you're so cute. So, yeah, and she's such a good breastfeeder. Oh, my milk supply is like really good, I guess, because she'll be satisfied with just one side sometimes and not even want the other side. So I'm guessing I have a lot. And I did pump yesterday a little bit after she didn't finish on the other side, and I was like, I can't deal with this. It's a little too engorged and I don't want to be in pain.